How many people is a lot of people? You're listening to Lofi Poli Sci. Oh yeah, Lofi Poli Sci podcast coming at you, people. Michael Pickering here with another edition of Tuesday's Top 10 List. That's right, every Tuesday we look at global indicators and surveys to see which countries hold the top 10 rankings in particular categories. We look at things like GDP, Gini, largest country, smallest country, happiest country, and more. And no worries, Lo-Fi listeners. We go into what each category means before we jump into the list. And today, we're doing a bit of a throwback, a recall to an old list that's just worth revisiting. We're doing the top 10 most populated countries in the world. That's right. Do you think your country has a lot of people in it? Well, just wait until you get a look at this list. Let's jump right into it. Coming in at number 10, Mexico, with 130 million people. Jeez, that's a lot of people, and that's only number 10. Number 9, 145 million people at Russia. That's right. Number 8, Bangladesh, with 166 million people. Number 7, Nigeria, 211 million people. Number 6, Brazil, 213 million people. And now to our top 5, and coming in at number 5 is Pakistan with 225 million people in Pakistan. Number 4, Indonesia with 276 million people, distributed on about 6,000 islands out of about 17,508 islands. But you already knew that. Number 3, the U.S., coming in at 332 million people. Number 2, India, at 1.393 billion people. And number 1, well, you already know the answer. It's China, with 1.444 billion people. And there you have it. But now, let's dig a little deeper into the numbers of it all. First off, we'll go ahead and say India is projected to pass up China in population within the next 5 to 30 years. So that could switch up pretty quickly because they're only separated by about 50 million people. But of course, only 50 million people. That's not a small number of people. That's the entire country of South Korea, which is about 50 million people. So yeah, still a big difference there. But another fun fact with math, because yes, you know we love us some math, nerd house over here. If you add India and China together, you get 2.837 billion, which first off is about 36% of the entire global population of 7.75 billion people. More than 1 in 3 people on Earth either live in China or India. But what's more, if you add up the entire rest of the list, the other 8 most populous countries in the world, those 8 countries combined have 1.698 billion people in them, which is still more than a billion people less than just India and China combined. That should help put into perspective just how many people live in those 2 countries. And you have to be wondering, why the large gap in estimates on when India will actually pass up China in population? ? A good question indeed. Well, you see, China used to have a one-child policy. But they changed that a few years back to a 2-child policy to help increase birth rates in the country. However, it wasn't having enough of the effect that they wanted. So, within the past year or so, they changed it to a 3-child policy to help increase birth rates even more. And theoretically, if that still doesn't have the desired effect, they could have it made into a 4-child policy. So you see, these kinds of policies that are still changing in China have a direct effect on birth rates, and thus the amount of time it takes India to pass up China's population. But I hear you crying out there. What do I care about which country has more people than what other country? Being the most populous country, big deal, no one cares. It's not an important statistic at all. I hear you. And guess what? You're wrong. And let me tell you why. You see, a country's population is also a measure of its potential power, its potential labor force, its potential innovators and entrepreneurs, its potential economic might. You see, China didn't always have the second largest economy in the world when using gross domestic product, aka GDP, though now it does. And its economy is only second to the United States. And they are getting closer and closer to having the largest economy in the world. And you see, how did they do that? Well, it's the past 20 years, really, is when we've seen it take off. A lot of China's economic success has been tied to poverty reduction in the country. And if you're able to rise people out of poverty, like hundreds of millions of people out of poverty, and get them to start making money and spending money and opening businesses and making more money and spending more money and creating more jobs and opening more businesses, and you see where this is going? Having a population of 1.44 billion people, poverty reduction, and increased foreign direct investment, as well as domestic base investment and mass industrialization, and voila, China, once quite a poor country with the largest population on Earth, is now the second largest economy with the largest population on Earth. And India, well, India has the exact same potential. And India is, in fact, a top 10 GDP country as well, just like China, coming up and up and up. Now, I know what a lot of you out there are saying. Yes, GDP is not a great measure of economic performance, or at least not by itself, and I agree completely. Because when you look at GDP per capita, meaning dividing all the money a country makes by the population of the country, well, India and China, well, they're no longer top 10 countries. China drops all the way down to number 76, according to the World Bank. And India? India drops all the way down to 162. Now, that ain't no joke. I mean, really, neither of these drops are. What just these two numbers tell us is that there's still a long way to go as far as economic development and raising the standard of living for the majority of the population in both countries. And that's exactly why. Eventually, without a doubt, China and India will both one day pass up the United States as having the largest economies in the world. It's simple math. They both have a long way to go to raise people out of poverty. But look how far they've already gotten. And just imagine, once they get the vast majority of their countries out of poverty and to a middle-class income status, they are going to have an economic boom and be economic giants like the world has never seen. Because they have massive populations, which represents massive economic potential. And you all know that saying, power to the people? Well, it also goes, the people are the power. And that is most certainly true. A time will come when China and India, representing 1/3 of the entire global population, will be the largest economies in the world. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. But how significant is that? Well, that's a conversation for another day. And that, my friends, is this Tuesday's Top 10 list. And are you interested in writing into the show? Follow us on YouTube, Instagram, myself on LinkedIn, email us, let your voice be heard. Always remember that Lofi Poli Sci is more than just me. It's the we that we be. Peace and well-being to all my human beings out there. Much love and always the best. Pickering, signing off.